Alright guys, what's up? Welcome to the channel. You're watching Claritone Audio. So there's a lot of new subscribers in the last few weeks, so I just want to say welcome to the channel. For those of you guys that don't know, my name's Kilian. I'm an audio engineer and music producer. I have my Psytrance project NaiLiK with Grasshopper Records, and I've been working in the audio industry for about 7 years, freelancing and doing other things. Firstly, sorry for the delay on the new video. So basically, due to coronavirus and having a lot more free time, I decided to do some DIY projects. I actually built myself a new studio desk, and in the next few days I'm going to be rebuilding the studio. So we'll have a video of that, and you guys can check out how I built my desk, and you'll see kind of the new layout once it's all put together. Anyways, onto the video. We're going to be looking at how to spice up this preset that I'm working on for my upcoming Serum preset pack. We're going to take a look at some basic things we can do to make the sound kind of take it up another couple levels so that it's ready to go out of the box. Plus, I'm going to have 3 quick tips on how you can get better sounds in Serum right away. So we'll jump right into Cubase like always, and we'll take a look at that sound. So here we are in Cubase. We have this FM preset that I'm working on for the upcoming pack. If we just give it a listen, then we'll break down the sound quickly, and we're going to start kind of looking at things that we can do to spice up the sound or pimp it up to make it ready to go out of the box. So this is the sound what we've got so far. So that's just holding one note. So what we have is a digital wave shape. We have FM, FM, and then we have a spectral wave shape, which is squelchy number 2. We're using the sub oscillator with no volume to be the FM source for oscillator A, and then with oscillator B, we're using oscillator A as the FM source. If I just turn off the filter here, we can hear this kind of like filter movement. So if we go over to our effects tab, we can see, and I click on LFO1, we'll see that it's kind of moving to the left and to the right of this position, and it's giving us that LFO feeling. But I'm not using the main filter because I think it's LFO3. If we turn that back on, that's what's closing, but it's using a different time. So LFO1 is opening and closing on 16th, on a 16th note, or on a 16th timing, sorry. And LFO1 is going to take 1 bar to go up. And when it goes up, it's actually bringing the cutoff filter down, but it's bringing the resonance up. So we can look at that here. So the cutoff filter goes down, but the resonance goes up. So that's pretty much what the sound is at the moment. We've got a little bit of distortion. So let's look at some things that we can do to bring up this the level of the sound. And I don't mean that like the volume. I mean bring it up a notch. So one thing that we definitely want to do is bring our levels down here, and we're going to assign the velocity to oscillator A and B's level. The range is going to go back up to full, and we'll just test it by lowering the velocity, and then bring the velocity up. We can see it's much louder, so it's working properly. Another thing we might want to do is we're definitely going to want to start macroing stuff, because if we look at our macros, they're not doing anything. And you really want to save yourself some time and add extra control. And especially because I'm working on a preset pack that's going to be available to you guys, I want to make them as controllable out of the box and as versatile out of the box using just these macros as possible. So we'll try and start assigning multiple things to each macro that are kind of similar in what they're doing, or kind of things that are going to work together to create one effect. So the first thing I'm going to do is put a macro, and we'll just kind of make maybe like a grit macro. So as we raise it up, it's going to raise the drive in the distortion. Okay, that's all right. Another thing maybe we're going to have it do is, no, that's already, I was going to say we'll put it on the resonance, but it's already moving up with the LFO number 3. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring macro number 1 and we'll put it on drive. And we'll give it a bit more filter drive as well as distortion. Okay, so we're going to turn on a reverb here. So I'm also going to have a bit more reverb decay. And maybe we'll go from like 5% reverb to like 25 or 30, I guess. So we'll just call this grit / effects. So next I'm going to turn on this phaser here. We'll go to BPM and we'll turn the rate to just off. So now what we have is this control over the phaser frequency, which will kind of give us this like phase shifting sound. So another thing is I'm going to do is I'm going to assign this to maybe the wavetable position here. And as well as the frequency in our phaser. So that's cool. Right, so the first quick tip that we're going to have in Serum right away, just to get better sounds by default. This is not going to be preset dependent, so even if I change this, you have to go in and do this on your own Serum. So right away, if we go to the global tab here, we can see in oscillator settings, we have like draft, and probably the default most you're on is 2x, which this is just like the oversampling quality or the oversampling for the oscillator, which is basically the oscillator quality. So if we want to have better quality out of Serum, it's going to take a little bit more CPU, but it's going to be worth it. So we're going to go to 4x, and then we're going to keep this white lock on so that whatever our choice is going to remain when we open new presets or we open a new instance of Serum or close Cubase or close whatever DAW you're using and reopen it. So we're going to put on this white lock, keep it on 4x, and right away that's going to bring up the quality. So that's quick tip number 1. So let's get back to continue pimping the sound and bringing up these macros and kind of seeing what else we can do. Something else we might try is we've got this cool stepping LFO that I don't think I'm using for anything. Okay, we're using it on B, we're using it for the warp position. So let's try and also use it for maybe pan. So we're going to go to quick tip number 2, and that's obviously just a really, really obvious one, but it's going to be skipped by some people, especially when you're making presets. You want to check your output levels. So you don't want to be having any kind of distortion inside of Serum. It's just not going to be ideal. If you want to use distortion or anything like that, use the plugin or use a plugin outside. Clipping the output is not really going to be doing anything for you. So make sure you have enough headroom. And another thing you want to consider is that if your sound is not monophonic, and it might have the potential of being played with like chords or multiple notes at once, you want to make sure that your output level doesn't go over into clipping when multiple notes are held down, if it's like a chord or something like that. So that's something to consider. You want a little bit of extra headroom as well. So next thing that we're going to do is, I was kind of avoiding some of these effects because it's quick tip number 3, but that's to mix right inside of Serum. So we want to definitely be using the EQ, the compressor, and try to get things as close as possible. And kind of a second part to quick tip number 3 is, as you're mixing stuff, remember that you can and probably should be changing the order of your effects. So each effect feeds into the next one, and you can rearrange them here, which will completely change everything. So maybe you want to put a compressor before you put the reverb, and you want to EQ post or pre-compression. You can switch all of those things. So all those are things you have to consider, and just switching them around sometimes will bring your sound up a level. So mix inside of Serum, we're going to do quick things that we know we want. So I'm going to add maybe a little high pass. I might keep it a little bit of a resonant high pass filter here. Maybe we'll go to like 120. Another thing we can do is maybe put a shelf. So we'll just boost this kind of shelf. So we just want to polish it up, make it a little bit brighter out of the box. We'll jump over to the compressor. We'll try the regular compression, and we'll try the multi-band one, which is also really, really nice, which is the same thing as they have their separate plugin OTT by Xfer. So we're gonna, oh, sorry, what am I doing here? We're gonna go into the compressor. So we want to compare. I'll just do a quick compare in Cubase. We'll put on the multi-band. So this is with the multi-band compressor, and then we'll just switch back over to the other one and see which one we like better. So I think we can all agree that the multi-band one's a little bit more exciting, but it's also a lot, there's a lot more high frequency. So maybe I'm going to pull back on that shelf here and maybe go for like 5 dB. I'm also going to pull back that high pass a little bit just to stay on the safe side. So I'm going to continue assigning some macros here. We're going to go and try and assign some stuff for these last two ones so that we can just kind of switch the sound around a little bit more without changing some of the phase controls. So we want to make the sound as versatile as possible. And we'll come back at the end. We'll take a look at what I came up with, and then we'll compare. We'll quickly take a look at what we started with and what we end up with at the end. All right, guys, so I'm back. I've been playing around with some macros, and we came up with some pretty cool stuff. So firstly, if we look at our modulation matrix here, we can see that we've just got macros kind of a little bit everywhere. So I've named them grit, effects, which we went through together. Then I created stereoize, metalize, and randomize. So firstly, we'll just listen to them. So we have our basic one. or the preset with without the macros engaged, I should say. So another thing is you can see that I fixed that reverb problem that we were having by doing exactly what I said. I changed around some of these effects orders, and now the delay is at the end and it's after the compressor, so it's working much better, and it's not cutting off because of the filter cutoff modulation that we had with the delay before it, like it was before, if that makes sense to you. So we've got grit effects. So we can see that it's bringing up a bit of the distortion drive, the filter drive. It's also bringing up a bit of decay and a bit of the reverb wetness. So that's where we get the slash effects, as the reverb also increases, even though it gets a little bit sharper because of the delay, because of the distortion, sorry. Then if we go over to macro 2, we can see we've just got a little bit of movement on this position over here. So if we click on it, we can see, okay, so it's moving the wavetable position, and it's also moving this frequency in the phaser, but the rate is set to off. So I think we did that before, I just kind of named it now. Next thing we'll look at is LFO3, or macro 3, which we have it going to the flanger wet, and we have it also doing the EQ high frequency. So if we bring that up, we can see we have no flanger all the way up to fully flanged signal. And then as we bring up the flanger here, we'll see that it actually moves the frequency of this high shelf to bring it a little bit lower. And then at nothing, it's kind of just more, just a high frequency. So it goes a little bit more down into the middle range. The fourth macro that we have here, if we look at the matrix, is where things get a little bit more fun. So if we go to macro 4, we have envelope 1 decay time, which that's not changing anything actually in this case, sorry. Then we have chaos, so we're using the sample and hold feature, going to the effects filter frequency. And we've also got it using the aux source from macro 4. So this way, basically, as we bring it up, it switches over to using the sample and hold, taking over instead of the one that we had, which was LFO1 on the frequency. So now instead of that, what we're using is the chaos oscillator, and it's doing that by doing, you do chaos to the filter, and then the aux source is on macro 4, so that when you raise it, it takes the chaos oscillator. And then another thing that we're using sample and hold for is the EQ frequency. But this time it's changing the frequency of the high pass filter here. So it's also going to be moving and jumping around with the sample and hold oscillator, as well as the frequency over here. So if we just kind of jam around on these macros, this is what we have now. So I hope you guys liked the video and enjoyed the 3 quick tips. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys very soon for the next one. And as I said, as I kind of rebuild the new studio, I'll be posting some videos about those updates. and the actual building of my studio desk. So hope you guys liked the video. Cheers.